Brilliant. So, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Farm in a Box live event. Really happy to see so many different year groups and so many different schools here from all over the country. We really hope you've enjoyed your Warburtons Wheat Farm in a Box, which you should have received in September, and you've been doing lots of brilliant activities. We love to hear all about it. Just a little bit of housekeeping first. So, we've got two functions for you to use while you're here. We've got the chat. And we've also got a Q&A function. So down at the bottom, you should see a box with a question mark and it says Q&A. That's where you can submit any questions. So we do have Farmer Helen with us today. And if you've got any questions for her, anything at all, pop them in the Q&A. So if you press that Q&A button, it should open up. You can insert your question and then I'll be able to see that to ask Farmer Helen for her answers. Some of you have already submitted questions in advance, which is brilliant. So if you need reminding how to use that, you can pop a question in the chat to Sarah, who's in the chat today helping. But if you've got a question for Farmer Helen, please put it in the Q&A. So today we're going to be chatting to Farmer Helen at her farm. We're going to be asking lots of questions and we're also going to be playing some games together. So let's say good morning to Farmer Helen. I see you've got some other farm members behind you as well.
I have, yep. So good morning, my name's Helen, and I'm stood right at the top of the farm this morning thinking you get a great view, but it's quite foggy and misty, so it might clear as we talk. I farm in South Yorkshire, and we grow mostly wheat, barley and beans, but as you can see behind me, we do have a few sheep. And if I turn around to talk to them, I think they might come and see us. So, hippies! Are they coming?
Well, they're all oh yeah, here they come.
And they're all going to be very
well
with me because I haven't got any food. So I think I'm going to get fed now. Okay.
So what
so these are all
we got there?
We've got quite a mix. Sort of the ones with the really black faces, that's the Suffolk sheep. We've got some that are sort of the crossbreeds, so different varieties. The ones with the really boxy faces are Texel cross. And yeah, we've got Shropshires this year as well, so they're not in this flock at the minute, but they've got really woolly faces like little old men. So bit of all sorts, but always pretty sheep. I only have pretty sheep.
Lovely. Well, we can chat a little bit later about farming because obviously you're here as a wheat farmer, but some farmers do have other things as well. So yeah, we can talk much more about the sheep. If anyone's got any questions about the sheep or about the wheat or about anything to do with Farmer Helen's work, you can pop that in the Q&A function. So I'm going to get started with some questions now, Helen, because we have had some that have been sent in with registration. So we've got some things to get started. So the first thing, I think, a really important question, and that is from St. Joseph in Wandsworth. And that's, what's your favourite thing about being a farmer?
I think the variety, and it's a job we need, sort of. If you go to the supermarket, you look in your trolley or shopping basket and try and work out what in that basket hasn't originated on a farm. It just goes to show that we all need farmers. I think that definitely. Makes it feel like a very worthwhile job.
That's brilliant. And we're going to be talking a little bit more when we do a game later about things that come from farms. So that's a really good intro to that. On the other hand, though, Miss Ali from Stanhope Primary has asked, what's your biggest problem on the farm? So do you have any issues or any problems that come up as a farmer?
Dare I say this, politicians? Yeah, at the moment we're having a few problems with politics. And the other problem we have, because we're on the edge of town, we have people on quad bikes and motorbikes and things riding around on the fields, which, destroys the crops. Yeah, cutting fences. There are some challenges. It's not all straightforward. Yeah.
That's something that probably some people don't understand, is that in the countryside, some land is public and it's accessible to people, and some land is for farming. And obviously going on that land can damage the crops that are going to be going to produce food at the supermarket for us. And Scott Wilkie Primary has asked, and this is a very big question, what are all the different things you need to do as a farmer? So I was thinking maybe you could give us a little outline of a normal day on the farm, some of your jobs, some of the things, what time do you get up in the morning? What things do you have to do?
That is such a huge
It's a
question.
huge, we
Um,
can't answer everything a farmer does because I know there's hundreds of things, but
yeah,
what are some of your jobs
yeah,
that you
yeah,
do in the
yeah.
day?
Um, I think the thing to really bear in mind is it's seasonal. So for us as arable farmers, that is growing crops, we get really busy in the summer and we're busy at this time of year. So at this time of year, we're planting. So in the morning, we're getting up, getting the machinery ready, filling the drill, which is the machine that we use to plant the seed, fill that with seed. We'll go out to the field and plant the seed. So we're looking to plant, I'd say about 70% of the farmed area will go in with the seed in the autumn, because we can have two different types. We can have autumn and spring drilled crops. So at the moment, I'm working, well, my daughter's doing the drilling, the planting of the seed. I'm going to be working with this machine, the sprayer. So I'm looking to control some of the disease, or well, not so much the disease, but the weeds and what have you. So that's what's happening at the moment. In the summer, we'll be combining and corn carting and storing everything in the shed. In the winter, we'll be more sort of repairing machinery or doing sort of refencing fields to stop the sheep getting out, that sort of thing.
Yes, it's
You
very
know, that's one of the
seasonal.
great things about the job. You're doing something different all the time.
Yeah, and you've said a few words there that I'm not sure everyone not from
Right.
farming will know what you mean. So you said that that is a sprayer. I'd love for you to go into a little bit more about what you mean by a sprayer, and you also said about
Right.
combining.
Okay. So we're what we call a conventional farm, and that means we're not organic. We do use chemicals to help control weeds and such like. So the sprayer, it's, if you can see behind me, there's a tank at the front that we, on our system, we just fill with clean water, and a tank at the back, and that holds about 1,600 litres of water. And in that water, we'll mix a little bit of chemical, like a weed killer or something. And on the back there's, if you see the red booms, I don't know if you can see it clearly, sort of up and down, those actually fold out and spread out to 24 meters. So we'll drive up and down the field and you have a really fine mist, much finer than comes out of a watering can. And it just applies that weed killer across the field. So it kills the weeds, but it's very clever because it doesn't kill the crop.
Brilliant. And then you said about combining, so at different times there. So one time a
Ah,
year you'll use the tractor to spray, and another time
yeah,
you might use it to combine. What does
yeah.
that mean?
Well, we don't use the tractor in the combine. The tractor will pull a trailer. The tractor is the workhorse on the farm. So we put different machines onto the tractor. The tractor provides the power, and then the machine sort of does the work. But for the combining, it's a machine. You saw some pictures of them in that intro, some really big combines, much bigger than ours. And the combine is the machine that we use to harvest the wheat and the barley and the beans. So it goes through the field, and I think we're going to see one a bit later, goes through the field, gathers all the crop up and separates the seed from the rest of the plant. And it's the seed that we're really interested in as milling
Brilliant.
wheat
So
growers.
different times a year, different jobs. So one time a year you're spraying, so you're getting rid of all the weeds and making sure
Yeah,
that you're ready. You drill, which means you plant all the seeds, and then you use the combine to harvest all the
yeah,
crops at the end.
yeah.
So very busy all through the year, definitely. And we've just had a question from Miss Alderson. What is your favourite thing on the farm? And I'm asking this now because a lot of farmers, it's machinery. So it might be your
Yeah,
favourite machine or something else that's your favourite thing on the farm.
no, a lot of farmers are really keen on their machines. For me, a machine does the job. You know, it's a bit like a car. It's a tin can on wheels and gets you from A to B. My favourite thing, and I don't know if you'll be able to see this, I can see it looking from here, but is the wildlife on the farm. So the hedges. Can you see a great big hedges around our fields?
Yeah.
And they're big because we let them grow. We'd only cut them once every 3 years at most. So if I'd show you that, that's a lump of one of our hedges. Can you see all those lovely red berries on it?
Mhm.
Those berries then feed the birds. And in the spring, for these berries to form, in the spring, then we'll have, the hedges will be covered in flowers, which are great for the pollinators and all the bugs and things that live on the farm. So I think my favourite bit is the wildlife on the farm and looking after that and providing for it. It's getting that balance between making food for us and food for the wildlife.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's really important that farmers they look after the land, they provide food for us, but they also look after the other living things on the land. That's brilliant. Um, Looking at those berries, so we've had a few
Yeah.
questions about other things you might grow. So Muntham High School have asked, do you grow fruit? So are there any other fruit or vegetables that you grow?
We have a very small orchard next to the house, and we sort of that's got apples, pears, nectarine, apricot, all sorts of fancy things in. But not really as part of the farming because the thing about farming is you have such huge machinery that costs a lot of money. You can't afford to have just a few acres of one thing and another and then be able to have all the machinery that goes with that. So farmers tend to specialize now. So you'll have an arable farmer or you'll have a fruit farm. Equally, the other thing to bear in mind is that the soils are different and the climate is different across the country. So over in the west of the country, it's a bit wetter or quite a lot wetter on occasion. So that tends to be more livestock type farming. Whereas over this side of the country on the east, then we have rather more arable. So it's a bit drier. So we can't go in the fields if they're really wet. It just mucks up the soil. The soil is sort of like a farmer's gold. If we haven't got good soil, we can't grow good crops. So we have to look
Brilliant.
after the soil. So
And I do
yeah,
think that
we
that
do.
links to a good point that lots of children might think that farmers have lots of different types of animals and lots of different vegetables and lots of different crops. They might have a couple of horses, a couple of cows, a couple of sheep, a couple of pigs, and grow lots of different things.
Yeah.
And actually, to make sure that everyone has enough food and that we can provide things to buy in the supermarkets, you need to be a specialist, don't you, in one or a couple of types of farming.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the at one stage, the farmers used to be really specialist and sort of maybe just grow wheat and oilseed rape for the oil. But there is a big push now, and you might have heard this phrase about sustainable farming or regenerative farming. So that's a big push to get the sort of like a circulation. So you grow your crop of, we rotate our crops. So we'll grow a crop of wheat, which is a very hungry crop, so needs lots of food. So we'll grow a crop of wheat and then maybe followed by another crop of wheat and then then beans or barley, and then it goes back to wheat. But in amongst that, if the wheat's not done well, we could put something in for the sheep. So we'll put sheep on the field for a year to sort of help improve the soil. So it's like a rotation going all the way back to, I think it's Jethro Tull, wasn't it, way back, that came up with the idea of rotating the crops to keep the soil healthy.
Yeah, so it's a real science, isn't it? And
Yeah.
linking to that, obviously, you're an expert in lots of things. You've got so much expertise in farming, but I'm sure that you have people who advise you and who help you because we have had Wodensfield Primary ask, do you have help on the farm? So maybe you could tell us, do you have people who work with you or do you have specialists that come in and advise you on different types of farming?
But just for the day-to-day work on the farm, there's myself, my husband, my daughter, and at the moment we have a student who's doing a day a week just to get work experience. So really the three of us. But there are so many specialisms in farming. I mean, talking about the sprays that we put on, we don't just sort of nip to the local shop and buy a spray. As it just happened this morning, just before we came online, our agronomist, so he's a specialist who knows all about sprays and all about the crops. And he comes and he walks the fields and he looks for any problem weeds. If there's just a few weeds here and there, it's not a problem. If there's loads of weeds, then they can outcompete. That means they can swamp your crop. So he will look at that and then he will advise what chemicals, what sprays we might need to use and at what quantity, because it's very, very tightly controlled. So we have agronomists, we have engineers and mechanics that help us look after the machinery. We have all sorts of people sort of looking at regulation and what have you, and making sure we comply with all the rules. There's loads and loads of rules. Who else do we have? We have environmental consultants that help us get the sort of the bird seed and the pollen and nectar and all that sort of thing right. Yeah, loads and loads of help. If you're interested in farming or getting involved with farming, there are so many jobs available across that link to farming. We can't do
Absolutely,
it
to
on
do
our
with
own.
the animals, the soil, the
Yeah,
wildlife,
yeah,
the
vets,
food that you're
obviously. Yeah,
making,
yeah,
there's
yeah.
farms that have robots now as well. Do you have any robots on your farm?
We don't know. We used to milk cows. but we went out of that. We used to have milk rounds as well, so doorstep deliveries of milk. My daughter's friend actually supplies robots onto farms, so yeah, all sorts of things for packaging fruit and vegetables down on the fens and that sort of thing. So
definitely. And
no,
just to explain
we don't have robots.
yeah, just to explain to the children listening, when I say robots, I don't mean someone that looks like a person made of metal who is packing things. It means a machine that's doing things by itself, doing things automatically. So some farms have milking machines where the cow can go in and it will milk them without anyone having to do the milking. Lots of different types. But when I say, unfortunately, we're not at the stage yet where we've got metal people working for us.
Yeah.
We've
You
had
can
loads of
equally get
questions about
machines
the
that
animals. I am going to come back. If you've been asking questions about animals, I'm going to come back to them in the next Q&A, just because we have had quite a few. Just want to do a last few questions here before we stop and have a little game. And just to let you know, the first game is going to be Who's Poo, which is in your Farm in a Box, the cards. So if you haven't already got them ready, get them out ready, because we'll be doing that in a few minutes. But just a few questions more generally about your farm, Helen. So we've had Mr. Nightingale and Miss Mould from a different class have asked how big the farm is. It looks huge from where I'm looking, because we can see right into the distance.
It always looks
you.
vast on camera. I mean, it is quite big. It's 800 acres or 300 hectares. So that's, about 800 football pitches inside.
Yeah, so if you've got a school field, that's probably, I would say, maybe half an acre. So we're looking at, thousands of your school field all put together. Lots of space. And we've also had DLC have asked why you became a farmer. So you've talked about your favourite part is the variety and all the different things you do. But what got you into it? So when you were younger, did you want to be a farmer, or how did that journey happen for you?
Yeah, I was brought up on a farm in Norfolk. So my dad was a farm manager. So I was always poking around in mud pies and, following him round. We used to grow peas then. So we used to go following the pea vining harvest and helping get the peas from the field to the factory in the 2 hours that you had to do. So yeah, brought up on a farm. I actually studied geology and geography. But then I went and married a farmer, so that's how I've ended up farming. But
so geology meaning about rocks and geography
rocks.
being the land. So it's still related a little bit.
Yeah, my particular interest was soils. So that you had that overlap between the rock and the soil.
Yeah, because soil is such a huge part of farming, isn't it? If we didn't have healthy soil, nothing would grow. We wouldn't have any food to eat.
And it takes thousands of years to make it, so it's important we look after it.
Really good question here from Miss Tyne. I'm going to end this first Q&A section with this question because it links really nicely with what you were saying about becoming a farmer. And you said you grew up on a farm, and obviously we know you don't have to grow up on a farm to become a farmer. There's so many different jobs. We've had a question saying, would you encourage people to become farmers when they grow up? And that's from Barnsley at High Park.
This feels awful to say this. It's really difficult at the moment. It's a really challenging job. You've got to really love it. You do not earn much money farming. On the other hand, I wouldn't do anything else. And yeah, I would encourage people, because ultimately we've got to have food. So yeah, and it is a fantastic job, and it's a lovely crowd of people to be working with, and they're really quite passionate about the whole thing. So yeah, I would say definitely.
Yeah. So you've got to love it. It's not, you're not doing it for the money, but there's so much variety, and it's such an important job as well.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, we're going to have a quick break for you, Helen. We're going to play a little game just to have a bit of a break. If you've got any more questions, keep sending them in. We're getting loads coming in the Q&A. I am taking notes of them all, and we'll be answering a lot more of them in the next Q&A. But we are going to stop. We're going to have a little game break now. So hopefully you have got your Who's Poo cards with you. So that is in your Farm in a Box. We're going to play a quick game of Who's Poo. So you should have 7 animal cards and 7 poo cards. And your job for this game is to match up who's poo. So to match up which poo belongs to which animal. I am going to be giving you some clues along the way. So we can start off, we'll give you a minute just to have a look at the pictures, and then we'll start introducing clues, which I will read out to you, and you can see if you can start matching them up, and we'll see who gets them right at the end. So I'm going to give you 1 minute just to have a look at the pictures and see if you can start matching. Right, let's have our first clue. So first clue, a cow poo is sometimes called a cow pat, and it looks like a big splat. So see if you can see one of those poo cards that might match up. Right, let's have the next clue. Chicken poo contains something called uric acid, which comes out of most animals as wee, but chickens don't wee. It comes out in their poo, and it sometimes makes their poo look a little bit white. Right, let's have our next clue. So one of the poos on the card has fur or hair in it, and only one of the animals eats other furry animals. So have a think about what they eat and how it might come out in their poo. And let's have another clue. So rabbits produce two types of poo. One is a normal waste product like everyone else creates, and one is a special type of poo that they eat again to get back more nutrients. So they eat the food, it comes out, and they have to eat it again to get those nutrients. So which of the cards do you think might have two types of poo on it? Right, next slide, please. We are going to have a look at those answers now. So see if you got all the correct ones. We've got that big cow pat there. We've got the white chicken poo. We've got a rabbit poo that has two different types, and the fox poo down at the bottom, which has fur in it. So did you get those right? Did you also get the pig, the horse, and the sheep right as well? Well done. Pop it in the chat if you got them all right. I'll be very impressed. Helen, I bet you've never heard the word poo said so often in a row, but it is a big part of your job as well. I wonder if anyone who's listening could tell their teacher if they know a word for animal poo that gets put out on the fields, that gets spread. It begins with So see if you can shout out to your teacher or put your hand up sensibly. The word that is used for poo that fertilizes the fields begins with You can pop it in the chat if your group got it. Farmer Helen, I bet you know that word.
I think so, yeah.
What do you think it might be?
I think it's muck or manure.
Manure, brilliant. Or muck we can say as well, but manure.
Farmyard muck or farmyard
poo is
manure,
very important on a farm, isn't it? Do you use animal poo on your farm?
We don't actually. We did when we had cows, but now that we don't have any, it's animals that are kept in sheds, so they're kept on straw or some sort of bedding, so that is then spread onto the field. So we don't use that. We do different things. Obviously, the sheep poo, and that fertilizes the ground. But really good example of recycling. So just imagine if it didn't get recycled into the soil.
Definitely. I mean, where would we put it all? All these animals. So it's great that farmers can recycle that. They can put the manure onto the soil, which helps the plants grow. And then the animals can eat those plants and then provide more manure, and it goes round in a cycle, doesn't it? So really important. And well done, Almsley class. I can see you have shouted out manure on the Q&A, so well done. So we're going to watch a little film now, Helen, and you have been providing some brilliant footage, which you've used a drone for, haven't you?
I have, yes, yeah.
So we're going to watch the film and then we'll have a little chat about what we've seen.
Okay.
Brilliant. So Farmer Helen, you took that footage for us. Can you just tell us what we saw then? What was happening in those videos?
So we mentioned earlier the combine, didn't we? So that is actually a combine harvester. So at the moment, I'm stood in a field of wheat. So you can see how very different that is to the wheat that was being harvested. So what was happening there in the summer when the crop is ready to be harvested and the seed has all gone sort of hard and brown, then we'll go in with the combine harvester. So when it first comes into the field, we put the bed on, which sounds a very silly name, doesn't it? But it's the bit at the front of the combine, the big long bit with the reel on top. So we put the bed on, we'll check that all the belts and hydraulics are working properly. So you saw David with the side of the combine opened up there, just checking everything was doing what it's supposed to be doing. Then Caroline's in the cab. She's set the reel going on the bed at the front. If you notice very briefly, it's just turning. You could see everything moving. So on that bed, you've got what's called a reciprocating knife. I love that word, but it just means it goes backwards and forwards, and it cuts the crop off as you drive forward. So you'll have on the film of her actually combining or harvesting. She's driving along, that knife is cutting the crop off as it stands in the field, and the reel that goes round and round at the front is just gently pushing that crop into the combine. It goes into the machine, and the machine is then separating the seed from the rest of the plant. So as we said earlier, the seed is what we're really interested in terms of getting the wheat for Warburtons to make flour and make their bread from. But we talked a bit just a minute ago about the muck and the sort of feeding the soil. So as the combine had gone past, you'll see at the back of the combine what would have been straw that cows could have slept on or whatever. We just chop that up from the combine and it goes straight back onto the field. Now that helps raise what we call the organic matter in the soil. So it helps the soil hold on to all sorts of nutrients, which is the plant food and what have you. And if we keep the organic matter fairly high in the soils are healthier. So we're
What do you mean when you say organic matter? What does
that
that mean?
is plant matter. So in this instance, it's the straw that is left over once we've harvested the seed off the crop. So and then we have these wonderful worms in our soil that will hopefully come up, grab hold of these bits of plant matter, the organic matter, and drag them down into the soil, and they start digesting them, and it gets made into part of the soil. So it helps the soil hold water, but equally the worms help the soil drain a bit better. And it gets really technical, but you sort of, the soil has different structures. If at school you want to go and dig up soil, you can have a look at it. It's got all sorts of things going on in it.
Brilliant. Thank you for explaining that. We're going to watch the film one more time just so everyone can kind of have a little look at all the things we've talked about. So while you're watching, I want you to have a look what the machine looks like, what it's doing. Obviously, Farmer Helen's explained how it's cutting the crop and what it's doing. So have a little close look at the machine. I'm also going to ask you a question, and I want you to pop the answer in the chat. So I want you to tell me why you think the field is yellow. Okay, so let's watch the film again.
Can I just make...
Oh, sorry, Helen. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, if you look at the field behind me,
Yeah.
can you see the rows in the crop where it's been planted? If you look carefully when the drone is over the top of the combine, you can still see those rows in the crop. So you can sort of match up what you're seeing here to what you're seeing on the combining. But equally, that shot at the top of the combine is the seed being sort of fed up into the top of the combine, into the tank, just in case that's not really clear. It's called a bubble up auger, and all the seed is pushed up into the top of the combine as it separates it.
Great. So that's another thing to look out for. So let's watch that film. Brilliant. So have a think why you think that field might be yellow, because the one behind Farmer Helen is green. And you probably have seen lots of green fields before. So why is that one yellow? And you can pop your answer in the Q&A or in the chat, and we'll see who gets it right. So I'll just give you 1 minute in your class to have a think about that. Great, we've got some answers coming in, so just 1 minute to have a think about that. Some great answers come in. So I'm going to read out your answers, and then Farmer Helen, maybe you could explain to us why the field is yellow. So we have the wheat is old and dry. It might be wheat or it might be corn. The wheat is ready to cut. The wheat is dead. The wheat is ready to harvest. So lots of different answers about why it might be. So, oh, and we've got one more coming in, because the sun have dried out the grass and the crops. Okay, so why is the field yellow, Farmer Helen?
Those answers are pretty good, really. And the answer is because the crop has died. So it is an annual crop, the wheat and the barley and so forth. So we plant the seed, it will grow for about 8-9 months. And then the whole purpose for the plant is to produce seed. And then that seed should drop on the ground and grow again. That's the way the plant, continues its life cycle. So it's an annual plant. So once it's produced seed, the plant dies so that the seed can be shed. So yes, the plants have died. So it's golden brown. It's lovely and dry, hopefully, if we don't have a horrendous wet year, and all ready to harvest. So unlike the hedges around the edges of the field, which are perennial, and they'll come to life, they'll go to sort of sleep, dormancy through the winter as they shed all their leaves, but they live year on year, whereas the crops in the field are mostly annual. So certainly the wheat and the barley.
They do a season, they die off, and we harvest. Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah. Thank you for that. We're going to go straight into our Q&A because we've had some brilliant questions coming in about the wheat and about the animals as well. Mr. Nightingale has asked, how much wheat does the combine collect when it's in the field, and how much wheat does the farm produce altogether?
Really good question. So the trailer holds about 8 tons of seed. 10 tons. The combine will hold about 8 tons. But our combine, if you might have noticed, it's quite a lot smaller than some of those photographs that you saw at the beginning. So different combines will hold different amounts. So depending on how wide the bed is, the bit at the front is how much it will gather. And, we just keep going until the whole harvest is done. So
do you have to empty it out and then do it again if it's one field?
So the tank at the top of the combine, sorry, it's because the sun is breaking through now, so I'm struggling. The tank at the top of the combine gathers all the seed, and once that's full, the driver gets an alarm, and then that seed is transferred via an auger out into a trailer, and the trailer then brings that back to the field. Sorry?
What was an auger?
An auger is it's a tube with a spiral inside. So as the spiral turns, it's quite hard to imagine, but as it turns, the bit at the bottom of the tube just pushes the grain along, and it moves from the tank into the trailer. There's a Archimedes screw is the one that comes to mind, and every time I think I'll make an example of that to explain it. But it's a way of moving the crop around.
Yeah, so that you don't have to sit with a spade and shovel out all the crop. You've got a machine that does it for you.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And in terms of how much crop we have on the farm, last year, if we're looking at climate and what have you, it was so dry that we had 50%, so only half the amount of yield that we would normally have, the yield being the amount of seed that we get, per acre or per hectare. So we would be looking to get sort of 8 to 10 tons per acre on wheat. I mean, per hectare. I'd be doing really well on acres. Acres about 2.2 acres to the hectare.
Yeah, and I bet that's a measurement that lots of the children have never heard of or used before, because we might use feet and inches, or we might use centimeters and meters, or we might use liters and gallons for liquids, but I bet they don't use acres.
No,
I wonder
probably
if
not.
That's a little challenge we could give the teachers. Maybe you could work out, you go on Google Maps, sometimes you can highlight an area, maybe you could work out how many acres your school is, how many would fit into Farmer Helen's farm of 800 acres.
Yeah, so the acres is the imperial measurement, the old measurement, and the hectares is the modern one.
Yeah.
So a hectare is 10,000 square meters.
Yeah, so a huge amount of space that you've got to grow and farm on.
Yeah.
So Halebank Primary have asked, is it easy or hard to drive a tractor? So do you drive the machinery, the combines and the tractors?
I do,
How difficult is it?
I don't do the combine so much. It it varies. Physically, it's a lot easier than it used to be because we have power steering and so much of it is computerized. But as the machines get bigger, it can get more difficult because you're sort of a long way away from the end of the machine. It's not physically difficult. It is a skill, though, and equally knowing how to operate all the computerized systems on them to make sure they're working properly. So like GPS we use for drilling to make sure the rows are nice and straight, or follow a certain line so they're spaced evenly. It's just something you learn. It's a skill, like in any other job.
Yeah, and something that the children who are interested could definitely
and it's just as easy for women as men. I mean, not so much now, but certainly when I started out, people were really surprised to see a girl driving a tractor.
Yeah, but there's lots and lots of brilliant women farmers now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Brilliant. So we'll move on to the animals, because since the sheep made their appearance, we've had lots and lots of questions all about the animals. And I know that you're mainly a wheat farm, but as we said, some farms do have other areas as well. It would be nice to talk about the sheep. So we've had Miss Mulholland asked, do you have cows? And Muntham House School asked, what animals do you have? So is it just the sheep, or what animals do you have on the farm?
As farm animals, we just have the sheep now. Sort of 20 years ago, we had a dairy herd and we bottled milk and we had milk rounds. But we've stopped doing that and sort of concentrated on the arable, and the sheep are now sort of increasing in numbers. We're wanting more sheep. My daughter's really keen to get some suckler cows back on the farm as well, but then we've got to have buildings to house them in, so quite a big step to start getting the cows in. We have a couple of dogs, but not farm animals, and a pony for that matter.
And we've had a couple of schools asked how many sheep you have.
Now you're asking. There's
roughly
38 ewes, which are the mother sheep, which are in the field that we looked at. And we've got 48 lambs from this spring just gone.
Great. And a lamb, for anyone who does, I'm sure you do, but if you don't know, a lamb is a baby sheep. So Brentfield School have asked, what type of food do you feed the animals? Do you grow anything to feed them, or do you buy their food?
To be honest, we try and just stick with the grass-fed. If you've come across grass-fed meat or whatever, the whole point of the sheep is that they're grazing what's in the fields, and that's where they get their food from. We do buy in a little bit of food, like I was saying, they will come to you with food. We don't have a sheepdog to round them up, so we have a bag of food. Give that a rattle and they'll generally follow you. But that's
because they were all coming over to you before, weren't they? Obviously expecting some food.
Yeah, they're like a little treat. It's like giving them a packet of sweets, really.
Yeah. And Barnsley class have asked, what's your favorite animal on the farm? So do you have a pet sheep? Do you have one that you like most, or do Do you know?
It changes. We had a bottle fed lamb in the spring this year, and he was really quite a sweetie. But to be honest, he's now so tame that he's an absolute menace because he pushes all the fences down and what have you. So yeah, there are a few sheep, a few of the ewes that are very friendly and just sort of follow you around. So that's really nice. Some of them are a bit scaredy cats and jump at the butterfly kind of thing. But
Yeah, well, they're not
yeah,
they're not generally pets, and that's something the children
no,
might not
that's the
understand
big
is,
difference. Yeah,
yeah, we say
yeah,
they're livestock, so animals that live
yeah,
on farm. Farmers might have an occasional animal, like you said, that they've bottle fed that become more of a pet, but in general, the animals aren't pets. They're there for a
yeah,
purpose, which is for milk or for meat. So
yeah.
they're not as friendly as your dogs and cats might be at home. And that links into Almsey class and Cedar class have asked, do they have names? So do you name your sheep?
Some of them do. Um, some of them are sort of their names reflect their characters. In other words, they're sort of ones that just bulldoze down fences. Others will have names because if you're bottle feeding it, you just tend to sort of say, "Well, I'm going to go and feed Geronimo now," or whatever.
Geronimo, that's a good
Yeah,
one. I
yeah,
like that
yeah.
one.
And we've got one called Ginger because it had a bright ginger face, and she's now one in amongst the ewes. So yeah, they tend to reflect their sort of what they look like or their character kind of thing.
Yeah,
Geronimo used to just come bombing across the field like a mad thing. So
and just to
where his
explain
name
it
comes
again to
from.
the children who might not know, so we say they don't have names. All the animals on a farm will have a number. Usually it's in
Yeah,
a tag in their ear, and that is how the farmers know which sheep it is. So they don't all
yeah,
have names because they're not pets, but they all have a number so we can
yeah,
recognize them. And I'm going
yeah.
to ask one last question to end the Q&A before we do a quick game before the end, because this is a lovely question. So Highbank School have asked, would you let a class visit your farm? Do you do school visits on your farm?
Absolutely. We love having school visits. So the more school visits we can get, the better. It's really lovely to have schools on the farm for them to actually see the big open spaces. If I spin around here, because the fog's beginning to go, I don't know if you can see the sort of views that we
Yeah.
have. Um, and just seeing where your food comes from and coming and asking me lots of difficult questions and getting me thinking about my farm in a different way to the way I might normally think about it. Yeah, so absolutely. I encourage every farmer to welcome schools onto their farm because it's
Brilliant.
really
And
good.
obviously, not every school here could visit you because you might be
No,
a long
no, but
way. But the Country Trust do farm visits all over the country. So if you are interested, go to the Country Trust website. You can express your interest. You'll be put in touch with someone local to you who can see if there's any farmers near you that do visits. And Helen, I know you do lots of visits,
yeah,
particularly for Warburtons with their wheat, which is absolutely fantastic.
yeah.
Oh, and Sarah's just put in the chat actually the link to express your interest in visiting a farm. So if you want to, please head on to that link or our website. We're going to do one last game before we say goodbye. So we're going to play a game all about wheat now and what you might eat or what you might buy at the shop that has wheat in it. So here we can see some wheat growing. And if we go on to the next slide, we can see wheat is ground into flour, and that is used in lots of food products. How many different things can you think of that use wheat? I'm only going to give you 2 minutes. So in your classes, I want you to think as many different things that have wheat in. So that is flour. So for an example, I will say bread. I think that's an easy one, isn't it? That we all would have got. So bread is made from flour, so it has wheat in it. But what else could we make? So I'm going to give you 2 minutes. When we're done, teachers, I want to pop you to pop the number of food items you thought of in the chat. So 2 minutes, off you go. All right, just half a minute. Think of any more. Right, teachers, if you have a number that your class has thought of that many different food products, can you pop it in the chat and we can see who has thought of the most? And we're going to go on the next slide and that will give you some answers. So all of these things have wheat in, lots of other things as well. You might have thought of some different things and then pop in the chat. So we've got 7, 9, 7, well done. In the last event, we had an unbelievable 21 items from a class that thought of the most. And I bet everyone here, or almost everyone, will eat something today that has wheat in it. So if you are having a sandwich for your lunch, or you have a cake or a biscuit as pudding, if you have any of these things, toast for your breakfast, certain cereals, pasta for your dinner, lots of different things, pizza, then you will have had wheat today. And that will have been grown on a farm, just like Farmer Helen's. So I think the school that have submitted that they've got the most is Miss Ali's class with 9. So well done. So unfortunately, we are going to have to say goodbye now. We're ending our Farm in a Box live session. So big thank you to Farmer Helen for letting us see your farm, letting us hear all about what you do and what your job is. Have you enjoyed yourself?
I've had a great time. Thanks ever so much for chatting with me. It's really
I've
interesting.
had lots of brilliant questions, and the questions and answers, we're going to put the document up with all of those on the digital resources page that you've been sent. So you will be able to go over them, have a look at the live event. We've recorded that, so you'll be able to see that if you want to. If you want to recap anything with your class or you want to find out anything more, please get in touch. Teachers, if you could please do an evaluation, we are going to send you a link very soon for your Farm in a Box experience. Hopefully you've been using it, doing lots of different activities, learning all about food and farming and wheat. So I'm just going to ask James to pop up a link. Brilliant. So we're going to send you out an evaluation. It won't take long at all, just 5 minutes of that. But it really helps us learn from the Farm in a Box and improve for next year. Also, if you're doing any activities, please share on social media if your school uses that so we can see. We love to see how the boxes are being used and what you're doing and what you're learning about. So I hope you've had a good time. I hope you've learned lots. Thank you for joining us, and big extra thanks to Farmer Helen, and hopefully we'll see you all again soon. Goodbye.
Bye.